You believe you are making choices right now. What to think, what to feel, what to want. You are probably less in control than you imagine. Cognitive science suggests that far more of our behavior is automatic than we like to believe. Much of what we do each day happens beneath conscious awareness, guided by patterns, assumptions, and learned responses that were formed long before we had the language to question them. And yet, most of us move through life convinced that every thought, reaction, and decision is entirely our own. If you've ever found yourself repeating a pattern you swore you'd broken, returning to the same kind of relationship, falling into the same cycle of procrastination, reacting in a way you promised yourself you wouldn't, then you've already encountered the gap. The space between knowing and being, between understanding something intellectually and actually living it. That gap is where some of the most important questions about human behavior begin, and it's exactly what this channel exists to explore. We are living in the most informed, most connected, and arguably the most psychologically aware period in human history. We know what dopamine is. We've read about cognitive biases. We've journaled, meditated, optimized, tracked our habits, and monitored our sleep. Information has never been more available. And yet, anxiety continues to rise. Burnout has become commonplace, and many people carry a quiet sense that life is happening to them rather than through them. Here's what much of modern self-improvement gets wrong. It treats the symptom while leaving the structure underneath untouched. A new habit, a new morning routine, a new productivity system, a new framework, each one layered on top of the same unexamined foundation. The foundation never changes, and when the foundation remains the same, the pattern often returns. To genuinely understand why you do what you do, you need two things that are rarely placed in the same conversation: the empirical findings of cognitive neuroscience, how the brain actually functions, and the practical wisdom of philosophy, which has spent thousands of years asking the deepest questions about human nature, suffering, identity, meaning, and change. Together, they do more than explain the pattern. They help reveal why it exists in the first place, and sometimes they help dissolve it. At the Awareness Abode, we work at that intersection. 3 dimensions, every video. First, the science of self. We explore how neuroplasticity actually works, not as a motivational slogan, but as a biological process. We examine what chronic stress does to the brain, how evolutionary pressures continue to influence modern decision-making, why a nervous system shaped for survival often struggles inside a world it was never designed to navigate, and most importantly, what those realities mean in practical terms. Second, behavioral architecture. The invisible structures underneath your choices. The cognitive biases that are not simply flaws in reasoning, but deeply embedded survival shortcuts. The attachment patterns formed early in life that continue to shape adult relationships. The social and psychological forces that influence what we believe, what we fear, and how we interpret reality. Not to judge, not to pathologize, but to see clearly. And third, philosophy as a living tool. Not stoicism as a productivity aesthetic, not ancient wisdom reduced to social media quotes, but philosophy as a method of investigation. From Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus to the Upanishads to Nietzsche, we examine ideas that have survived centuries of scrutiny and ask a simple question: what still holds true? What reveals something important about the human condition? And what genuinely helps us live with greater clarity? Every video on this channel is built on a non-negotiable principle: intellectual honesty. We do not cherry-pick studies to support a satisfying narrative. We do not reduce complex psychology to simplistic formulas. And we do not assume that popularity is the same thing as truth. We follow the evidence wherever it leads, even when it is uncomfortable, even when it challenges our assumptions. even when it contradicts something we wanted to believe. We do the reading. We examine competing perspectives. We compare philosophy against science. And we bring forward the ideas that survive that process. Because this channel is not designed for passive consumption. It is designed for people who have grown tired of surface-level answers to deep questions. People who suspect that understanding themselves is not a luxury, but a responsibility. People who recognize that the examined life is not an abstract philosophical ideal, but a practical way of moving through the world. Awareness is not a destination, it is a discipline. And every discipline begins with learning how to see clearly. If you've stayed this far, you already understand what this channel is about. This is not a channel about becoming a slightly more productive version of yourself. It is not about endlessly optimizing the person you already believe yourself to be. It is about something deeper. It is about examining the patterns underneath your thoughts, the assumptions underneath your beliefs, and the forces underneath your choices. Because one of the most important questions a human being can ask is this: who is actually running my life? The answer is rarely as obvious as it first appears. If these are the kinds of questions that interest you, subscribe to the Awareness Abode and join us as we explore psychology, neuroscience, philosophy, and the deeper patterns that shape what it means to be human. Because awareness doesn't change everything overnight, but it changes where everything begins.